Hey, welcome back to the channel. Over the past year or so, I've been asked a few times, why does the joystick on a Switch Lite from the left to the right have a significant price difference? Well, we've already made a video showing the fix on the left side joystick on a Switch Lite. And we saw that it was pretty easy to get into. It popped the back, a few things to get out of the way, and there it was. Well, on today's video, we're going to look at what it takes to replace the right joystick in a Switch Lite and why there's a price difference. So, if you stick around, we'll show you how to get that done. Okay, on the bench today, we have a Switch Lite, and this is another one with a busted Joy-Con that we obviously can't shim. Sorry, VK. Anyway, a few months back, I did a video on changing out the left stick, and we saw that it was a fairly simple procedure. But on that video, I actually also commented that when I get one with a broken right stick, that I'll put up a video with it, just because it's pretty in-depth to swap this stick, and it's not for the faint of heart. If you can't work with, tweezers and the fine ribbon cables, then it's probably best to leave this one up to somebody else. The video ribbon and touchscreen ribbon can be a little finicky, and you can cause damage if you're not careful. So let's go ahead and get this one started. In this case, normally the Switch Lites use these white ones. I was out of stock, but the customer said that a black one's fine. There's no difference in any of the colored sticks, just to let you know. And anyway, let's get this one cracked open. And it's kind of like in the past video, which I'll link up there. You have 4 tri-wings, you have 2 Phillips on the bottom, and 2 Phillips on the top. And check for a game. Animal Crossing, that's a fun one. And make sure there's no SD card in it. And there is one, so let's just go ahead and take it out and set it aside. All right. Let's get into this. All right, that gets our back off. Now, in the other video, we saw that we could almost leave this alone, just lift up this board and replace the stick. Unfortunately, this all has to come out to change this one stick. And this video was partly made because of request, but also because I get people ask me, why, if I change a stick in a regular Joy-Con, it's only $15, but if I change it in a Switch Lite, it's significantly more. And, like I said, this video is being made to show the labor involved in doing it. All the screws in the back are Phillips. You have this one here that's one of the gold ones, which are a little bit longer, and you'll see them here. And I think that's all of them. And it kind of keys on that side, and we put that aside. And now time for the small stuff. Ribbon out of the way. Pop your battery, push it aside. Lots of little Phillips screws in this one. And just like with the standard switch, we got 3 Phillips screws in our heatsink. And you can cut the tape. I had somebody ask in the last video if, you know, it'd be better just to pull it up. And, you know, they were worried that if you use a knife, it would short out the board. And, you know, honestly, you're sitting on top of this fan, and even on the other one, you know, there's a bit of side tape. Unless you're really pushing into it and jabbing, there's no chance of shorting on accident. But if you're more comfortable just peeling up the tape, go ahead. Just be aware that the copper heat pipe is really soft. So if you try to pull up from it, you're going to wind up bending it. So that's usually why I cut it. All right. So let's just keep going with this. Now most of the stuff coming off this edge are going to be gold screws. The button could come off, or our bottom trigger. And this is why I put that piece of foam under there. It's just, you know, so I can push down on it and I don't have to worry about twisting the plastic body. Or, you know, if the stick was still good, you know, I don't have to worry about breaking the stick off. Now, the speaker assembly, there's several screws. You only have to take out this gold one. And there should be, yeah, there's a screw up here hiding right underneath the fan ribbon. All right, and then we have all these screws holding the game port in place. 4 around the headphone jack, and 3 or 4, 3 on the actual port itself. All right, with all that out of the way, you can lift this bail. Sometimes it's just easier with a fingernail. Well, this one's gonna be stubborn. There we go. Carefully wiggle it out. These double row ribbons fit fairly snug. All right, get a little close up here. Disconnect the fan. This is the touch screen. I always use 2 fingernails, 1 under each edge. It's long enough that if you grab it in the middle and try to pull it up, you're going to wind up breaking that one. So be careful and pull from both edges. This is the LCD connector. This is another double row. And this one right here is our Joy-Con that is broken. So I'm probably putting my head in the shot. This one's going to be a little bit stubborn. There we go. If you use a sharp pair of curved tweezers, you can get under either of the ears on these and you can push them straight out. You won't have any problems with potential damage. All right, that should be everything. Just start to carefully lift it. Make sure these ribbons aren't grabbing. And this speaker will kind of tip up and out of the way. You don't even have to disconnect it. You can just leave it there. And we're going to set that whole board out of the way. So now, all right, that's one thing we're going to have to talk about is the membrane on the buttons. So it's stuck onto this, but we can't leave it stuck there. Otherwise, it'll never line back up. So, all right, we're finally where we can access the Joy-Con, or the joystick. This isn't a Joy-Con, I guess. 2 more screws in there, and we're out, finally. You know what? I'm gonna take just a second, and I'm gonna count the screws, and I'll be right back. All right, you guys got a guess on how many screws just came out of there? If you do, make a comment down below. I counted 31, and there might be one hiding somewhere. But as you can see, there's quite a bit to get to the, to get to our one broken joystick there. So now we can put the new one back in. As you can see, the actual act of changing the stick isn't a big deal. It's getting to it. So here's the one gotcha involved. And since we're here, I'm just gonna go ahead and clean it. I haven't seen a Switch come in that's, had these carbon pads be in bad shape or anything. But, so what we've got here, as you can see on the housing, it's a raised lip where the buttons are. And this has to sit right on it. So if this pops up when you're putting it together and gets a little bit crooked and you clamp the board down, the buttons aren't going to work. So you got to make sure all those lips are down and around. And what I'll do is actually twist it so nothing's pushing up on those buttons, because if you push up on the buttons, you can see it lifts the membrane. So I'm going to do this, get a close-up look, to make sure 100%, because nothing's worse than having to take this thing apart again to make sure it's right. All right, so that's that. And now we can carefully put our main board back in. There's no good way to do this. It just takes some time, takes a little fiddling. I usually try to start from this edge, just so you get these antenna ribbons out of the way. Kind of get it lined up to where it's going to need to be. And we got our fan out. Carefully pull our video out. Carefully pull the touchscreen out. And then route our new stick ribbon up and over. Then make sure the speaker goes down into place. And make sure nothing's captured. And this should drop down with really nothing, flexing. This will sit down onto everything. If you notice that you've got it down and if you push on a spot, the board's flexing and kind of bouncing back, you've got something captured. Either one of these little ribbons are still underneath, or this membrane that was under here got out of position. So, with that where it needs to be, I normally take a couple of these gold screws and get them down into this edge, because it will hold that membrane in place. we can even take this one and put it in place. And here's the next thing. This little button sits in that little, well, this one's dirty. So you can see there's a little lip, a little edge in there. And this has to sit down into it. And it looks like it picked something up off my mat, so clean that up. See if we can get this without it falling back out. It usually does not like to stay in there, but sometimes we get lucky. There we go. Couple more gold screws. There we go. And these should have the nice tactile membrane feel. If they don't, take it apart, make sure everything's straight. All right, so from here, we can set it back on our tray this way and start reassembling. This is probably going to be a fast forward moment. So we can get our shield back on. The one point here to remember, oh, take one step back. I know there's somebody probably going to be yelling down in the comments about why didn't I put new thermal paste underneath our heatsink. Well, on the switches, although it's becoming a problem with a few of them starting to overheat, if you take these apart and they're pretty fresh, pretty new, and the thermal grease is still very pliable, I don't usually bother changing it just because this isn't a super high performance processor, and reusing it's fine. Now obviously if you disturb it or if it seems like it's starting to get hard, it absolutely would need to be changed. But in this case, you know, it's still wet and fresh. Okay, so come back to the shield. We have this ribbon here that's our power ribbon, and it's always going to get underneath this edge. So you want to pick it up, make sure it's not captured, make sure it's not pinched, and then you can drop it back down. And if you did things right, your last gold screw is going to go right in that point there. All right, that's all of our screws, and we can put our shell back on. As I've said in the past, you have this rubber membrane. All this is going to go on top first. Kind of line it up, get it to where it needs to be. Make sure these edges are down, and you might have to pull them away to get it behind. like that. And it should snap all the way around nice and clean. All right, and that's it. Other than giving the customer back their game and their SD card. All right, there it is. So just looking at the camera, that was a half hour start to finish, and you know, that's why replacing that stick is not necessarily an inexpensive repair to send in. But that's how you do it. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and give us that thumbs up. If you have to give us a thumbs down, make a comment below. Let us know what we can do better. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and the bell for your notifications for when new content comes out. And I appreciate you being here, and we'll see you on that next video. Thanks.